before we bring this to you to vote.
Shouldn't snow anytime soon. Any discussion about?
We're hoping.
We can hope.
I know.
Discussion after that faux pas. Any discussion among the board? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of leading action item number 4, the Wayne County Priority Winter Maintenance Services, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That will be deleted. Any other additions, deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay, with none offered, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Trustee Budney. Seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. With no further discussion, those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None offered. The agenda stands amended. With that, we'll move on to the presentation, the 2015 Township Audit, and I'll turn the microphone over to Mrs. Darzniak.
I did slideshow and then view. Okay.
After the training session.
What? From beginning. I got it. Very good. Good evening. It's that time of year again. We're going to go over the financial budget. And with me today is Mike Georges. He's the partner from Yo and Yo. That was the part in charge of this audit for the year. Obviously, I can only do the graphs and go over some brief information included within the audit. Within the audit, it's like 120 pages, and I will have that available online tomorrow morning for everyone to view, and there's some in the back if people are interested in actually taking a hard copy. So I'll just get started, and usual procedure, just go over some graphs. This is usually, now I'm training Mike because he hasn't been here. It's always been Tom. We've had Tom, our auditor from Hungerford, for the last 40 years. Long time. So we put this in the thing, and it just, if Mike wants to come up and kind of explain what the opinion is briefly. And
There is terminology in there that is specific to auditors and generally accepted
accounting principles.
Accounting principles. Thank you.
And generally accepted United States of America, because now we have international standards. So this is just United States of America standards. This is a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance you can get in your financial statements. It's called an unqualified opinion. If it was qualified, there would be a qualification in the report saying except for this or that, but that's not the case here. So it's the cleanest level that you could get, and that's basically what you pay us to do, or hopefully you get that opinion. And you would have known a lot sooner than this if it was modified.
Thanks. At the end, or if there's any questions, feel free to ask. The first one is the graph of taxable value. As we know, the taxable value from 2009 had dropped very quickly, and we knew that it would not be able to increase as quickly as it fell over the last couple of years, as you can see from the graph. It is going in an upward direction, which is good. Last year it only went up like about 1%, so it fell at a rate of 13%, and it can't go up because of Headley. It will not go up any higher than the rate of inflation. So last year it went about 1%. So you can see, like I said, the trend went down very quickly, but to recover, it's going to take some time. It's going to take a long period of time to actually recover. But we are going in the right direction, which is good. The next slide shows our taxable, our millages. If you can see that the millage from 2013 to 2014 for the audit year declined a little bit. And that was due to the debt for the public safety building. That was paid off at a 0.35, so we didn't have to assess that this year. So that's why the millage rate has actually gone down for the 2014. And here again, this graph shows it a little bit different. So from 13 to 14, the operations millages has stayed the same, and the debt millage came down. If we look at total property tax collections, we collect about a little over almost $9 million just in property taxes alone based on the taxable value. And that's what we use to operate most of our funds. Along with that, just want to let you know that everything that we have as far as the township, all our millages are voted upon. So for that, They're all voted upon millages. If we look at the total revenues, this is total government, so we're almost at about $20 million. You can see taxes makes up about 45%, and charges for services make up 32%, which is basically made up of the DPW department and the airport, with the charges that they charge for rental and the charges we charge for water and sewer rates. If we look at total expenditures, that's almost $20 million. Total expenditures are made up of about 50%, again, is due to Department of Public Services and the airport activities. Those are called enterprise funds. They work on their own collection of fees, and there's no tax base involved. It's all collection of fees and charges for the services. The police department make up about 19%, and general government makes up about 10%, and the other ones are a lot littler. The next graph is important. I mean, these are the big issues that we do provide a service, and with that service comes employee cost. Employee costs probably make up 75% of the operating budgets. If you look from 2011 to 2015, payroll has stayed pretty stable, with slight percentage increases in raises and people coming and going. There's been a few retirements that haven't been filled, so we are using part-time people. So if you can see over the years, the payroll in the green has stayed pretty consistent. Also, we have health care. If you look at the blue line, healthcare has stayed pretty stable. We've made a lot of changes for employee health care, and it's keeping that at a pretty stable rate. The other one, which is a little more not as controllable, is our MERS pension system. Currently, the reason for the inflation from $717,000 to $955,000 is basically due to they are trying to get the unfunded liability paid off, so they're shortening the period of time. It'd be like shortening your mortgage from a 30-year to a 29-year. So it all started out at about a 30-year, and right now we're at about 24 years. So they're making us pay our unfunded portion or your balance of your home in a shorter period of time, and as of that, our costs are increasing. The MERS evaluation is an actuarial number. This is what we actually paid out. We do have some unfunded liabilities. I don't want to make our picture so rosy that we are no debt at all. We do have unfunded liabilities with our pension of about $10 million, and our health care is about $17 million. We have been making changes to decrease those. They are actuarial numbers. They're not hard numbers. And it's hard to follow the actuaries. Every year, just like I said, they're shortening the period of time to pay our unfunded liability, raising the actuary of how long people live. It started out at 75, now people are living to 90, so it's a constantly changing number that I would like to have a separate executive or separate study session on the unfunded liabilities so we can get a grasp on those and work our way through them and actually get some information on them.
And just, do they have a cap on the reduction amount that they're shooting
They're
for?
going to go all the way down to 15 years.
15, is that
That's
their
what
cap?
they'd like to get
Okay.
at, yeah. And we are currently about 66% funded. It's a little below average of MERS. MERS is about 71% funded. So I just want to have a separate session on that. I could be talking for hours, but I'd like to have a separate session so we can get a grasp on those.
And wasn't that just a little while ago they were only going to go down to 20 years?
Yep, and now we just got a new information. So and when he saw that, I said we could spend a whole study session on that and actually going over some of the facts. So. I went to a couple seminars that were very enlightening. So, okay. If we look at just total fund balances from one year to the next, a big concentration lately, and we keep an eye on, is the Recreation Department. There have been some changes last year, obviously, with one manager leaving, a new one coming. Fund balance is at a minimal, it's $6,700. It's something we need to look at. There's a lot of, like I said, there was a lot of changes. We did a lot of capital improvements last year. So when we did the budget this year, again, there's been a lot of changes, but we need to sit down and look at the rec department and see where they're at because of the fire. And so we're looking at that closely. All the other fund balances remain pretty stable, up or down slightly. You can see with the library bike path. The bike path is basically no more millage, and we just did some repairs on that, so that fund balance is going to go down. Drainage remains the same. Roads remain the same. Open space remains the same. There's still some maintenance and some property money left available in that fund balance. Oh, going the wrong way. If you look at the public safety building, that's just from cell tower money, and drug enforcement has gone up a little bit. Fire operating went down a little bit, and fire equipment went up a little bit. So it just depends on how much capital that they're using and spending. Some other areas that we like to look at is this is the enterprise funds that we had talked about, the Department of Public Services. If you look at the changes in rates, we actually imposed in 2014-2015 fiscal year, we actually imposed 13.1% on water and 15.4% on sewer. But the change that's reflected here is not so much because that's just a portion of revenues, because actually just because we increased our rates, our usage has gone down. So those numbers don't reflect the exact increase because of the usage falling. So they only increased 10 and then 7%. If you look at the airport revenues, the first one's down by 15 is because the changes that happened in Hangar 2. So that whole building was, the tenants had moved out and starting to build up the tenants. So that's why that went down 15%. Commerce Park revenues went up 60%. That's because we got a tenant across the street. So that helped tremendously in that area. And fuel sales was down because the price of fuel went down. So that's the same as what we see at the pumps. Then also just, even though the Water's Edge is not truly an enterprise fund, I think we're always interested in where the golf, marina, and pool revenues have been. So if you look from 14 to 15, basically they're the same. The percentages look a lot. It's $1,000 or $5,000. So we pretty much are at these levels. I mean, we say it's not going to rain, but it does rain, and we say it's, sun's going to shine every day, but it doesn't. So I think we've come over the last couple of years that these are probably good numbers. I mean, this is where we're at right now as far as the Water's Edge side of the equation. Also, you want to look at debt. I mean, obviously, we have almost $37 million of debt out there, and our annual payment in which year is almost $5 million. What happened in the last year, though, which was good, is when the Township Board decided that we were going to refinance bonds. So we refinanced 7 bonds and obtained a new interest rate. So we basically refunded our house. We took seven bonds, combined them into one, with an interest rate at 2.16%, which was terrific, and we saved about $300,000. So we look at the bonds and see when every time we can call them or make a difference that we do that. So now we're going to go from general government as a whole. Now we're going to go down to just the general fund, our discretionary fund. So if you look at the total revenue, is a little over $5 million. It actually went up. Revenue went up about $36,000. So revenue really is predicted in general fund. It doesn't fluctuate all that much. It went up 1% from last year. A lot of it's due to the building. Building department was quite busy. It's been a change in the last couple of years, so excited about that. Property taxes make up 62%, and state shared revenue 16%, and then the building department is about 10% of general fund. We look at taxes from general fund, you can see as we did the charts before, they're going up slightly. And once we passed the millage in 2011 for the additional police revenue, it really made a difference to get us back in balance. And state shared revenue has gone up too, which is good. So it looks promising that that will continue to rise at a slow rate. When you look at expenditures, expenditures are at about 5.2 for general fund. Last year, they were at 5.16, so they actually went up about $97,000 or 1.8%. Police make up 62% of expenditures within the general fund, which is basically salaries and benefits. If we look at the property tax revenue versus police revenues, we were trying to get this in balance. In 2000, when we did that millage in 2013, it made a difference. But then, like I said, the majority of this general fund with police is employee benefits, and we know that that MERS thing is raising about $100,000 a year, and our property tax revenues are only raising $40,000. So right now it's pretty much level. We'll have to keep an eye to make sure we can. We look at just in summary the total revenues, total expenditures of general fund. You can see that over excess revenue over expenditures. You can see in 2011, 2012, those were the years where we know we needed to make up some revenue and pass that millage to get general fund back in balance, back in check. So in 2013, we made 93. 2014, we made 26. In this fiscal year, we lost 34. So we budgeted 0, and it ended up being 34,000 loss. And like I said, a lot of that due is to retirement and just some little situations that happened during the general fund, which wasn't. It's a minor percent. You just can't predict it to the penny, but there were things that were up and things that were down. So in total, revenue was up a little bit and expenditures were up a little bit. So at the end of the day, it was about a $35,000 loss. And then if you look at the chart, so our fund balance over the last several years is remaining about almost $2.9 million. And that's all I have. Questions or concerns? Like I said, we'll look at the unfunded liabilities, but everything other than that, we're pretty much as of. I looked at the statements for September, and everything looked pretty much on for this year.
I just a comment. Unfortunately, I've been sitting here for 7 years, and this is quite an improvement over the doomsday aspects we looked at 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, we were going downhill in a hurry, and it didn't look like we were going to get back. And
right.
You've done a great job, Ann. Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions for
me or Mike? Or if Mike has Mike. Yep.
Sure. Mr. George.
Since you brought me, I might as well talk.
Yeah.
Right? A couple things. First of all your funds have a positive fund balance. A great thing. It doesn't always happen with townships and cities nowadays, so you should be thankful that you're in the positive. Second thing is a single audit, which you have to get for federal expenditures, has risen from $500,000 to $750,000. You fall in that middle this year. So next year you may not have to have a single audit. You're close, though. You're close, so we'll see what happens. The next thing is Ann talked about MERS, unfunded liability. And one reason why it's good to have a study session or something coming up, you're going to have to put that on your balance sheet this year. District-wide, we call it the government-wide statements in the front, the GASB 34 statements. But for your enterprise funds, it's going to have to go on the statement. So that $10 million is going to show up on your statement. Some of them in enterprise funds, some will go in a district-wide or the government-wide statement. So that's a change. It's called GASB 68. It was in effect for years ending June 30th. You were March 31st, so you got out of it this year. Next year you don't get out of it. Right now we're dealing with all our schools and townships and cities right now. And it's a nightmare. Because of the schools, they just released the numbers October 19th that they got our audit done from the actuary, ORS, and our reports are due October 31st. So nothing's been filed with the state. 565 school districts are going in 2 weeks. So, I mean, we're done, but we're not done. So hopefully that doesn't happen. MERS is a little bit easier because they have your own numbers. So it's a little bit, it should go a little bit smoother, right? We're hoping for the cities, it's a lot smoother than for the school districts. But anyways, you're going to be hearing a lot about GASB 68, and that funded liability is going to be on your statements. So it's going to be a lot more talk. And that's the idea. That's why the Government Accounting Standards Board did that, because they want people to know what's out there. So they put in your statement so that there's talk about it. And that's why these states are also getting a little bit more active, because the public knows more about it. And they're hearing these 24 years, 30 years. So that's why they're trying to bring it down to 15 years, because they're seeing that it's becoming a lot more public. Public is getting a lot more interested in the liability, which is the same thing that the auto company and everybody else had. But that's all I have. Thank you, Ann. And I want to thank Ann and her staff. Very professional and treat us well, and great. Thank you for my first year. You guys worked too hard on it.
Thanks.
Okay, from the board, any questions, comments for Mrs. Darzniak, or don't go away yet, or Mr. George?
Yeah,
Mr. Budney.
Just to follow up on that MERS, did we, did the MERS have any input at all into them going down to 15? Because that 15 is really low.
Yeah.
Year two, I mean, that's...
Just got a letter. When was it? Last week.
You just got it?
Yes, we just got it.
What was their rationale for this dramatic acceleration?
I think they just feel that these unfunded liabilities are going to force you to pay it.
I mean, who do they answer to? Do they just?
They're their private.
Yeah, Mr. Supervisor, the letter that I received last week said that the MERS board came up with this, and they want you to know it so you can start planning for it, because it was 20 years, as was reported, and they're going to back it down a year at a time. And they said, we are now moving that goal to 15 years, so we have a real attainable number. So that liability will have an end date, not the rolling averages that had been going on for however long. So
I think theirs is the only bill we have to pay, or any town has to pay, and they say we're the most important.
But they do the same reporting with the healthcare. The healthcare already has been incorporated within the statements, because that was a change a couple years ago, but there's no require to fund it. This is the different. MERS is requiring that be funded.
And it's all actuarially based.
Yes. Yep.
But if there's any silver lining to this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that once we're 100% funded, we can depart the MERS system.
Sort of. I think that was the
So, I mean,
sort of.
That would be a silver lining.
That'll be for a future board to mull over.
for sure.
That isn't going to happen
It's not
anytime
going to happen in a year.
Okay, anything else for Ms. Darzniak? This is fun with numbers. We've got and I want to remind you, we got mid-review coming up, and there'll be more fun with numbers, but the budget is my responsibility, or getting it developed. Ann is the one who's responsible for getting me the numbers, and with support from the board. You make the job as easy as that job can be. The answers are there, and I'm impressed with the way this township, the fiscal responsibility we've shown. We had some dark years. We knew we'd slug through them. We made the cuts, the necessary cuts, but maybe it's time to start growing again. I think it is. So, but Ann, if no other comments, Ms. Darzniak, Mr. George, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving along. At this time, we'll open it up to public comment on tonight's agenda items. And as I can't see, all right, seeing none requested, we'll move on to consent agenda. Mr. Treasurer.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 15-064.
Support.
Which includes the minutes of September 28th, 2015 regular meeting, the minutes of October 6, 2015 special meeting, and the check registers dated September 26, 2015 through October 23, 2015.
Support.
Well, you're a little bit slow. Clerk Ranka beat you to it. But anyway,
Didn't hear him.
moved by Treasurer Van, seconded by Clerk Ranka. Questions, comments from the board on the consent agenda? Okay, with none offered, those in favor of approving the consent agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Consent agenda is therefore approved. Smart fund. Okay, action items. Smart funding, it's a rec issue. Trustee Malvesto is here, but we got beat up on this. I'm familiar with the issue. I'll propose that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees accept municipal credit funds from SMART in the amount of $10,184 to operate the 2015 through 16 Community Transport Program.
Support.
I'll give that one to Mr. Budney. So moved by Supervisor, seconded by Trustee Budney. This comes up annually. We can either be a part of the SMART bus system at 0.59 mils. Bail me out here, Brandy, because I'm working from memory on a lot of this. You sent us a bunch of documentation. This is an annual requirement. Last year they raised the SMART participation millage from 0.45 to 0.59. You have the number in here.
It's we would, if we were an opt-in community, we would spend about $300,000 with the millage. And since we're an opt-out community, they allocate based on population base, need, economic need. So we get approximately $10,184, I believe it is, to use for our transportation program. So between fees that we collect and millage and SMART dollars, we use about $10,000 from the rec general fund or our recreation fund to offset it. But it's really a savings to the community of $290,000 by doing it this way.
This allows us to have a very tailored service.
Yep, we run Monday through Friday. We're able to operate, we do shuttles back and forth to doctor's appointments or various little tasks that people need to be transported for seniors, low income, and disabled individuals.
Yeah, all the public outcry about, and again, some focused on Grosse Ile, why aren't we part of SMART? And it was all because of that walking man, the guy who walked 20 miles a day to work and got the GoFundMe account and then promptly moved. But why aren't we in it? And you and I went back and forth with the numbers. Here's why, here's why, here's why. $290,000 is a big savings to our community, and we take care of our residents. Questions, comments, other questions, comments from the board on opting out of SMART and basically subsidizing us to about $14,000 out of rec. All right, with no comments, then those in favor of approving the municipal credit funds from SMART in the amount of $10,184 to operate the 2015-2016 Community Transportation Program, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. That
Thank
will
you.
carry. Thank you. All right. And I'll get the next one also. All right, this is a fun one. All right, I'm going to recommend that the Grosse Ile Township Board of Trustees approve the hours between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Saturday, October 31st, 2015, for the purpose of Halloween trick-or-treating in Grosse Ile Township.
Support.
I'll give that one to Lauren. All right. We do this every year. We appoint a time. We get the proper warnings out for drivers. We tell the parents this is the time we expect to be reserved for trick-or-treating. And that's about it. I don't know if it has any legal, I don't think we could arrest anybody for staying out later.
Confiscate.
So as it gets closer, we'll be pushing out more reminders to people to, watch out for the kids. And we're also reminding the kids about safety on what they accept from people. But this is still, other than some bizarre adult Halloween parties, this is mostly still for kids. You may, Chief.
I just wanted to let you know if there's any parent out there that goes through the candy and either it's suspicious or you want to check, bring it to the station. We'll check it. We'll look at it. We can, run it through what we have in our jail, if you like. We've never had anything in any candy. There hasn't been one incident that I've known of all the years I've been here. But if you want to check, bring it down. Or if you're uncomfortable with something, either throw it out or, like I said, come on down and see us. So.
Thanks, Chief. All right, with any other comments, questions? None offered. Those in favor of, put it too quickly, approving the hours of
6 to 8.
thanks, Eric. Getting way ahead of myself here. Between 6 and 8 p.m. on Saturday, October 31st, 2015, for the purpose of Halloween trick-or-treating and grow seal. Okay, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. Okay, that motion carries. Kids, be safe out there. 2015 audit. Mr. Treasurer.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the Township of Groseal's financial statement for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2015, as presented.
Support.
Okay, moved by Treasurer Van Oss, seconded by Trustee Budney. Any further? Well, we just had the audit, so any further questions, comments? Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, just to reiterate the treasurer's comments. You know, a great job to the staff and to Ann. Yeah, the mic. Oh, there we go. Great job for Ann, the staff, for keeping us on top of where we need to be and in the right place in terms of this audit.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Any other comments? With none offered, those in favor of accepting the Township of Groseal financial statements for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2015, as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None offered. It is therefore accepted. Oh, let's see. 4 has been removed, and action item number 5. Who wants to take this one?
I'll make the, if you.
Mr. Budney, thank
I'll
you.
make the proposal for you. Propose motion to accept the donation of Catherine Wright, lots 577, 578, and 579, Groseal Manor subdivision, subject to the township paying the delinquent taxes and applicable fees, including title search, transfer fees, and legal fees, with the funds to come from general fund.
Okay, moved by Trustee Buddy, seconded by Treasurer Van Oss. There is background. Mr. Ream, are you going to present, please? Yeah, I knew you would. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. These properties have been before the board on and off for the past several months. Actually, at one time, they offered them to the township for sale for an open space purchase. However, they're in the process of closing out their or formalizing their estate, and this area has undeveloped road, undeveloped water, and they quite frankly felt the marketability was limited, and they didn't want to pay the taxes on it. So we have an option. We can, possibly wait till these go to back taxes, but then fees will become greater, and then would we have a true clear title on them? So, if you recall, back in the summer, in July, we put a letter of conditions together to the property owner and explained that we'll consider accepting this donation subject to performing an environmental review, having clear title, dealing with the back taxes, making sure there are no assessments and things of that nature. Well, if you recall, evaluating the environmental side of things, to have a formal environmental review done by an environmental consultant could cost us in the neighborhood of $2,000. So I did an environmental record search for $350 by the use of a service, and portions of that report are in your packet, which show that there's no environmental contamination at or near this property. The only closest site was many years ago. There was a small diesel spill at the wastewater treatment plant. However, for the type of facility, those types of things happen. It's cleaned up and is considered a clean site. So, other than that, the gas station and Macomb Street area was the other closest site. So clearly, that was addressed. The estimated cost for the back taxes, I said approximately $1,000 to $989 and some change. With title work, transfer fees, and legal fees, I put a couple $1,000s in that budget. Mr. Sorty and I went back and forth on trying to firm up that number, and that is just a rough figure. It could be a little bit more. It all depends on the title company and what they find. So we performed a site inspection myself, and I brought the assessor with me, and we estimated the property line location. Obviously, we're not surveyors or engineers, and do we want to spend $5,000 to do this? But based upon our evaluation of the home on the next street over and the approximate property line, there is somewhat of an encroachment on the edge of one of these three lots, and its yard. According to the existing property owner, that was that way when he purchased the property. It's used for yard. I mean, there are ways we can protect ourselves through letters and letting them know that we would not allow them to use it and hold our property, but nevertheless, we could also spend extra money on a survey. I just don't think that that's necessary at this time. And when I met with the property owner, of course, they said, well, hey, if someday maybe I'd be interested in that property. So it's just another possibility. So with that in mind, I would ask the board would consider accepting this property donation and the funds to use for just that general fund, so there would not be any formal restriction on this property unless this board or future board decided they would like to do so.
It doesn't come with any deed restrictions, does it? It's just,
No, sir.
It's just a clear donation.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Mr. Buddy?
You mentioned earlier that it was offered open space,
Yes.
and what happened with that?
Their asking price was too high, and I think they just decided that trying to get their state in order, that they just decided they don't want to mess with it and pay the back taxes.
I was just going to say I myself don't see any reason to take this donation. It looks like we're basically bailing out a person who can't get rid of a lot, and why would we want to take that on?
Well,
I don't know.
And from the perspective of not restricting it would allow us to potentially sell in the future.
But we're not in the business of buying and selling property. I mean, so that my con.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looked like we were thinking about maybe flipping this because it says in the future. While I like making money, again, that's not necessarily our business. And if nobody on the open market currently wants this property, and it has no road, no water, open space doesn't want it because it was too expensive, why didn't they just go back to open space and donate it to open space?
Well, whether it was an open space donation, they would still want us to pay the fees. They have no preference whether we want to put it in general books or open space. They don't object to whatever that may be. But what they're saying is they want the township to pay those fees. So, and we could certainly make it open space if that's what we wish to do.
Yeah, to me, it just, I mean, it doesn't. This is opening up a can of worms. If we start doing it for one person, other people are going to come forward and plead the same thing. It's a slippery slope.
The only thing that, if we were to wait and this were to go through the back tax process, we could eventually get it. We'd still have to pay all those back taxes, but we would not have a clear title.
But then, do we really want it?
So,
Well, they'll give you, the county will give you clear title on it.
in the past, we'd have to go before a judge to get quiet title because it would just be a tax lien.
I thought once Wayne County auctions off, they offered them with a clear
Yeah, it's like a quick claim deed. That's usually what comes with it.
Not a warranty.
I know, Tom, am I
claim.
on board or
No.
am I off?
A clear title.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I thought Wayne County.
Well, he's here.
Yeah.
You essentially get a tax deed, so the chances are when you get it back, it would clear out. Those deeds would have, or excuse me, those that deed would have priority over any subordinate liens, which would essentially wash that out. If, however, there are any restrictions regarding the use of the property, anything like that those could be included in the tax sale. What we said out was when Dale approached me about these properties, my recommendation is that before you accept the property, you do the same as if you were purchasing it outright. So you do perform that. You only accept it with a clear warranty to the conditions, with a clear title search, so that we know all those restrictions are gone and there's nothing there. Nothing would, with a municipality owning the property, we would want to make absolute sure that there were no restrictions regarding the sale, use, other things that may affect our ability to do something with it, including transfer it at a later point.
Thanks, Tom. Dale, Gregory doesn't exist there, just Marlboro?
Correct. It is platted but not constructed.
But it's not even accessible on its own, except from the canal, right?
You could walk through the right-of-way to get to it, but you could not drive. That is correct.
Hypothetically, what happens if we forgo this, it goes into back taxes, and we wanted to forgo it at that point in time? Then where would the property end up?
We could pay the back taxes if it gets offered to us.
Right, but if we chose not to, then where does the property go?
It goes to auction.
Auction.
From there.
Correct.
I'd buy it for $100 or $500.
Yeah.
If nobody bought it, if nobody accepted it in the first tax sale, it would then go to the auction. The auction minimum bid is $500.
Okay, or it's $3,000 roughly now. Although we would still have mostly the same $3,000 costs, except for we just have two of the $3,000, right? Because if you break up the $3,000, $1,000 is back taxes, $1,000 is title, $1,000 legal work, right? So if we wanted it at that point in time, then it would be $2,000 instead of $3,000, or $2,500 instead of $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bid up, it could be, and we still.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Posiask.
They're not making it anymore. Waterfront property. It's a finite entity. I saw it as, and try to evaluate personally whether it should go to open space or just township ownership. Open space locks it forever. Township ownership does not lock it forever, and although we are possibly not in the land acquisition business or sales business. If we're going to take it, we should take it as a property owned by the township and not as open space. Opinion. And by the way, your job on the environmental assessment, did a credible job for phase one.
You.
Okay, and I'm guess Wally took some of my
There he
my
goes
thunder, but
again.
it is waterfront property. We had talked about developability. I don't know if that's still a dirty word, but it does have the potential in the future to be a tax-generated property, and probably a significant amount of property tax, possibly. I mean, it's a future shot. Again, right now, as we've noted, there's no access to it. It's not currently buildable. I do remember Mr. Altel, though, on that property, he put a lot of money into that place, and he was willing to do that to get his waterfront parcel. So that person may be out there. It's an interesting piece. Any other questions, comments from the board? Since with none, this is going to be probably a split vote, so I'm going to ask for a roll call, and I will start with Mrs. Smith. Roll call. I'm sorry. We're ready for a roll call vote, Lauren?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm ready. That would be
Mrs. Smith.
no, nay.
Nay. Mr. Posiask.
Yes.
Mr. Budney.
Nay.
Clerk Ranka.
No.
Treasurer Van Oss.
Not at this time.
The only time. Nay.
Well,
A supervisor votes. This is the only time. Supervisor votes aye, but the motion does not carry.
I mean, there is going to be another time. I can't much.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that's okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ream. Well, that will conclude tonight's action items, and we'll step to the clerk report. Clerk Ranka.
Is it on now? There we go. So So, Mr. Supervisor, a couple of things, but before I start, first of all, a big thanks to Brandy and the Recreation Department for putting on a great trick-or-treat parade on Saturday, as well to all the businesses that participated in that, and also to the Police Reserve for managing traffic and keeping it safe. So I know my kids had a great time, and so did I. From Planning Commission, there was a 5-year master plan renewal that did not make the agenda this time, but should be on the agenda for our next board meeting to approve that. And then that should be it for my commission reports. We do have an election coming up, so just as a reminder, Tuesday, November 3rd, polls are open between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Your voter precinct is on your registration card, and everyone got new registration cards because we did make some minor changes to the precincts. There are now 5 precincts. There used to be 1. There usually 6 precincts, so we now have precincts 1 and 2 will remain in the Presbyterian Church. Precinct 3 is at the St. James Episcopal Church, and precincts 4 and 5 are in the Centennial Farm. And the absentee ballot counting board is here in the Township Hall. There is a map of the precincts available here at Township Hall, also on the website, and we look forward to seeing you in the polls in a couple weeks, November 7th.
Thank you, Clerk Ranka. Mr. Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. The investment report for the month of September shows $10,683,691 and some change invested in various accounts. That investment report is available online. Or you can come in to the Township Hall and get a copy for myself or my Deputy Treasurer. These accounts generated about $3,661 and change at 0.36% interest rate, which is a little better than it has been. Current information is available online. For 2015 summer tax bill due date is now passed. We have collected the majority of the tax roll. Collection report shows 95.8% of the tax roll has been collected. We are continuing to collect some tax payments here at the Township with a late penalty of 2%. Late penalty generally occurs monthly. Please call or stop by the office for accurate penalty amounts, or you can inquire online at growseal.com. I believe that's all I have. I don't think we got any more meetings this month. So.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Trustee reports. Mr. Posias.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a bunch of things tonight. First of all, I did go and attend the last meeting and enjoyed myself. It was a very lively group there. The dog park fencing, yeah, they were very lively. She's getting a kick out of that. The dog park fencing does look good. We had a great change by going to the coated fence, and it's a dark green, almost a black color, and it's almost invisible. It was, I think it made it look better. I have some reports about our senior luncheon. I've talked to several people that attended it. 1 or 2 of my friends go to every one, and they said this was the best one. So that was nice. A Halloween parade, Eric remarked on it being a nice parade. I know that my bike path folks started out that parade with some bicycles, and there's bicycle mania in Grosse-Ile, that's for sure. A lot of effort from a lot of people in that. Thank you, Brandy, for your work, and thank you to the Recreation Commission for contributing to this sort of a thing. You mentioned November 3rd vote, and I will reemphasize that. Vote. Personal aside, welcome back, Tony Gray. Greenway's open space. Woody is in the audience, and he hasn't had an opportunity to spank me for not being at the event yet, but I'm sure I'll catch that privately, and when it comes to public comment, Woody will talk about Dump the Junk. Our next meeting for Greenway's open space is November 3rd. Some things that we'll probably hear about is the wood cutting moratorium. The oak wilt subject is still a hot subject, and we're still asking people, do not move oak wood. Our bike path meeting was held last Tuesday. A couple of things we discussed about at that meeting were the bridges and the bike paths. I don't think they've ever looked sharper than they do right now. So go out there and take a look at your bike paths and your bridges, folks. They're gorgeous. Wood cutting, wrong group. Again, a myriad of bicycling events going on. I think there's one going on this coming Wednesday. It's a roll after dark.
Postponed a week. Postponed November 4th.
November 4th.
The glow roll?
Yeah, the glow
That's a
roll.
blast. It's postponed a week, yeah.
That ought to be interesting to watch. A lot of impetus came from bike path. A lot of it came from Rotary also. So 3 cheers for both of those groups. Our never-ending brick problem at the fountain. One of these days, we're going to finish that pad. I'm 1 brick shy of a load right now. Right?
Yes,
you
you
can
are.
draw it at anything you want. But we have an 8x8 brick that has been purchased for, I think, 35 years, and we haven't gotten it yet. So once that's in, we're going to have Carl put it in place. I'm going to take a picture for proof, and we should finally be done with it. I see that they've pulled the fountain already. Next event for Bike Path is the 17th. And just a final comment on Grosville Parkway. Isn't it nice to leave the county bridge and ride that smooth road? Thanks, Trenton. Thanks, Wayne County. End of my report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Posiask. Mrs. Smith, and I'm going to work on that. Thank you,
Mr. Supervisor. Real quick, our Festival Commission meeting last week was canceled due to lack of quorum. However, it has been rescheduled to this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So come out and see us.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Mr. Budney.
Yes. ZBA, we do have an appeal. It will be tomorrow, 7 o'clock here. Get here early. You know how these seats fill up. And again, I cannot emphasize enough that to please get out and vote November 3rd. And if we've had a lot of gone to a lot of meetings. We have the continuing GITV thing going, but it's still, if that isn't enough, if you have questions, please contact myself or Mr. Kostick and get your questions answered, but please go out and vote. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Budney. Township Attorney, Mr. Rosardi, nothing, no. Township Manager's Report, Mr. Riem.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just a few brief items. For Mr. Clark, attorney fees, we have O'Reilly Rancilio for general counsel, $2,800. And for Pepper Hamilton for the DEQ permit was $7,500. As everyone knows, we completed the installation of the universal kayak launch. We were hoping to have a ribbon cutting with Wayne County, but the contractor happened to be in the neighborhood and was able to remove it before the winter. So stay tuned for spring schedule. And I want to reaffirm Trustee Budney's comments about reminding everyone to vote November 3rd. We want you to make an informed decision, and we have all that information available, and please don't hesitate to ask questions so you can make an informed decision. And last, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Brandy to give you a maintenance building update for the Water's Edge facility.
Thank you.
Well, excuse me, it's taken a little while since the fire happened in June for us to go through and essentially ride the roller coaster of the insurance process. It took a lot of time to kind of catalog everything that we had in the facility, so not just sitting down and remembering everything. If you think about, if you go into your kitchen and shut your eyes and you have to remember every single spice you had, every single spatula. So to go through and catalog a 4,000 square foot facility is quite daunting, and the staff did an amazing job. Mark and Gary and Rob and Brian, and they all just really kind of racked their brains and really came up with a very comprehensive list. And then we went through and we I had to give documentation of what it would cost to replace those items. And then we worked with a company that was hired by the insurance company out of Nashville, and he came in and helped us through that process. In the same time, Balfour was hired by the insurance company to come in and assess the building that was there. What its current cash value was in the insurance side, with the type of insurance that we have, they don't care if we rebuild it or not. This is the money that we get for the building. And then if we go to rebuild it, we have total replacement on the building. So then you have your total replacement, which is you get your depreciation back. So the dollar amount that we have received from the building does not include current day value. They go through and assess the square footage, cement, the type of walls. So essentially they're paying you for the type of building that was there. What you have in front of you is a list of the equipment that was in the fire, kind of categorized by our needs, and then as you go further down the list, some items that we will need eventually, but if we don't get them within this, we'll have to budget them over the next several years. In the middle of the page, you also have the money that we've collected so far, and it's separated into 3 areas. We have equipment and content, we have the truck that was in there, that's a separate policy, and then we have the building. The proposals are coming in, and I saw some eyes already look. The money that we've received and they're anticipating for us to receive from the claim does not include the engineering fees, the project management fees, so none of those are in the original batch because they don't know if we're going to rebuild the building or not. So you go through the process, they give you the initial dollar amount. We've gotten 3 proposals in to rebuild the building. We reviewed them today with a subcommittee, and I've sent them over to our claims adjuster that we're working with through Travelers. She's been amazing through this process. Every time I've called, well, this came up, she's like, okay, and check your policy. So she really has worked, and I felt, even though she works for the insurance company, I feel like she has championed our cause and our needs. So she doesn't just say no, she really looks through the policy, and a couple times she's like, well, I don't think so, and then she's like, let me look further, and then she'll find it further in the policy that we did, it is covered under a different area. So she really has done an amazing job. So she has the 3 proposals with her right now that she's reviewing them and kind of seeing what will be covered, what won't, because like I said, there's some open bid items, they call them, mostly professional fees that aren't included in our original dollar amount. So I just wanted just kind of throwing this all at you one time. I didn't realize I was going to present this evening, so if you have any questions, obviously this is just the first run through of what we're doing. Most 99% of what we will do will be covered. There is the percentage that will need to be covered by Township is moving the building. It was said the day one at the fire and subsequent conversations since then, the current location or the former location of the building was pretty far from the property, and there's a lot of, I don't want to say dead space, but it's kind of tucked in there behind hole 9, and it's kind of, I don't want to say wasted space, but it's space that we can move the building back, expand our parking, and number one, and the reason I want it moved, is safety. Our guys come through there to mow the other half of the course, and cars come in off Bellevue. They don't stop and turn in. They come in at an angle, and that just really sets up our guys for a dangerous situation. So first and foremost, it is safety concern for me to get that building moved back further in the property. So we would incur any expenses that it'll take to move the property or the building from the current location farther back. So for the most part, what is coming in is approximately $30,000, and that would be to move the utilities further back in the property. And it's not all that far back, so it shouldn't be all that expensive. And then any they will pay to grade what we would have had to from them taking out the original cement pad. So the initial groundwork would be covered, but anything like moving trees or anything to level off or engineer that piece of property back there would not be covered by the insurance. That would be an additional expense that we would incur. And like I said, those are coming in right now. It's rough estimate at $30,000.
Brandy,
yes.
When, on this it says the township will have some expense, who are we looking to as the township, the general fund or Rex fund? Well,
we can take it out of recreation, but it's just it would be a deficit. We don't, the bulk of our season in our recreation department, since we're very facility driven with the pool outdoor, with pool, golf, we can't really cut back any projects because they're already done for the season. There's very few projects that we have left to do, so we really wouldn't really have any wiggle room in our budget to cut something and put something in there. So I would be asking for general fund dollars.
Thanks.
Other questions, comments from Boyd? You've been busy, haven't you?
We're doing.
Kind of. I think the relocation of the building is going to be a much better utilization of that space. Again, for the safety aspect of it, the increased parking, it's just better to have that barn tucked up out of the way, force us to get rid of some non-necessary stuff that ended up back there. So it's going to end up a better complex. Sorry it had to happen that way, but sometimes that's how things move. All right, with no... we kind of understood that to do this right, it was going to cost a little bit. So general fund has subsidized rec in the past. It's an important part of the community, and if we need to be along with this, we're just going to make recreation better. Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Yep.
And with that, I guess the supervisor's report. Okay, a whole bunch of rec stuff out of the way. Odds and ends going on. First of all, I'll reiterate Halloween. Okay, so I told you once we adopted the Halloween hours, I'd be giving you the safety briefing. So 6 to 8, be careful. We'll keep pushing out warnings to remind people that, the kids will be out. The weather looks pretty good right now, so it'll just be dark. And hopefully kids all over the place. Mr. Posias filled in on what's going on with the bike ride. I did one of the night glow rolls, and it's a lot of fun. But if you're not riding and you're driving, look out for a lot of bicycles. I think there were 75 cyclists in the last one, and it was very popular, so there could be that many or more this time. We'll try to get the routes out when I see what they are, get those published. So if you have a choice to drive somewhere else, if you're moving, drive somewhere else. This will be the last week for the Detroit Institute of Art's Inside Out program on Grosse Ile. It ends on October 31st, and they recover the artwork. So if you haven't seen it yet, we still have maps, please, and while the weather still permits, it's really worth seeing. It was really a nice addition to the township. And a lot of these things were published or posted on private property. So other than the ones that we had at Water's Edge here in the Township Building and Public Safety, we also want to thank Father Mike Molnar, Sacred Heart, and the Sacred Heart Parish Council, Pastor Sean Eubank, and St. Thomas Lutheran Church. They posted one. Kathy Brockmiller, Bishop's Cottage, for the unnamed and undefined woman's portrait. Thank you, Jillian Reese of the Detroit Institute of Art and Knight Foundation for making this program possible. I think it was really a great addition to the island. Carol wants me to remind you, and also Chief Murdoch, to sign for Code Red. We're getting a lot more messages of that. It seems the new Code Red seems to be working better than the first call did, pushing out text messages, emails, phone calls, whatever you prefer when you sign up for it. It took me 8 minutes start to finish to do it online. If you need help, give me a call. We'll walk you through it. Not that it was actually pretty easy, and it works very well. Okay, I do have my pink tie on left over from airline days. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. As I've stated a couple times, it's what got my mom. It had 2 tries to get her. She was pretty tough, but it will strike 1 woman in 8. That's an awful high percentage. So, the current government recommendation is wait till you're 40 or 45. But a surprising number of much younger women are being stricken with it, and it couldn't be me. I'm not old enough. Well, yes, you are. And additionally, a small percentage, but higher than you would think, attack men. I had a coworker who was out for 6 months for it. It's not supposed to happen to me. Well, it's not supposed to happen to anybody, but it does. So, same symptoms. So anyway, it can happen to men also. I'm going to give a preemptive thanks to Woody for Dump the Junk. I'm sure you're going to chastise probably myself and Mr. Posiask about it, but it was, man, you had a lot of dumpsters there, and it was a big enterprise. Let's see. Publications. This is getting kind of, yard waste will be picked up until the 15th of December. I'll throw a couple little cautions out there. First of all, when you're putting your trash out, your yard waste, your recyclables, try to keep it, I think our ordinance says no sooner than 24 hours. So if you're putting your stuff out Friday night for Monday morning pickup, you're really not making the community look very good. Please wait until as late as possible before pickup. Not something we want to have to enforce, but place would sure look better over the weekend if people's waste receptacles aren't all over the island sitting out to waiting for pickup in 2 or 3 days. The raccoons like it, but it just doesn't look good. Another is, and I watched a guy doing it today with his leaf blower, blowing the leaves from his yard out into the street. Okay, we've got ordinance that prevents that. We're not harsh on it, but come on, you're trashing your neighborhood. You're making your lawn look good, but those leaves are going to clog the drains. It's going to lead to other problems, and your neighbors are probably not going to be. I'm not going to be happy with you, and your neighbors may not be either. 31st of October and 7 o'clock in the evening, Molly guarantees me that's when the Sam Lot is coming through to make a delivery at the Trenton Power Plant. It's a big freighter, so somewhere between 7 o'clock on the 31st and 7 o'clock on November 4th, the Sam Lot will come through to make it. That's as close as we get. I wish I could do better, folks, but there will be another vessel delivery, and that probably will be the last for the season. On a happier note, let's see. Well, I'll give the sad note first. And I haven't had to do this in a long time. Today, Governor Rick Snyder requested flags be lowered to honor U.S. U.S. Airman Master Sergeant Greg Cousy. Today, Lansing, Governor Snyder's ordered U.S. and Michigan flags be lowered to half staff within the state capitol complex and all state buildings on Monday, October 21st, in honor of Master Sergeant Gregory Cousy, who died Sunday, October 11th. Cousy, along with 3 others, died in a helicopter crash in Kabul, Afghanistan, while supporting Operation Freedom Sentinel. Sergeant Cousy was a Kalamazoo native, 38-year-old airman assigned to the 3rd Manpower Requirement Squad at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois, class of 1995 graduate of Comstock High School, listed in the Air Force 1996. Godspeed, Sergeant Cousy. And a slightly now happier note, I got this letter, and this is for our public safety people. Don't get these very often, but it starts out to the Honorable Brian Loftus, Supervisor Grosse Ile Township. This is a note to thank you, Grosse Ile Township, its fire and police departments, and first responders. On September 17, 2015, while leaving Grosse Ile, crossing over the Wayne County Bridge, I was involved in a serious accident. Both Trent and Grosse Ile responded. I was quickly attended to and transported to Beaumont Hospital, a feat that astounds due to the added difficulties involving not only the accident, but the road construction and traffic of the morning. I'm so impressed with the professionalism, expertise, and dedication to duty of all units involved. My injuries were serious, and the actions of all involved helped save my life. So to you, ladies and gentlemen, my most sincere thanks, and that's signed by Carl R. Crone. That was, well, just a nice thing to pass along. That will conclude my updates, and with that, we're moving to discussion item. Did I miss something? We're about this again. Is discussion. It's ice rink fund. I don't know why that was so difficult. Ice rink fund.
I was the one that requested this.
It.
I requested this be put on for a couple of reasons. First of all, over the last couple of meetings, residents have come forward and asked about the ice rink, or the skating rink, and why it's been empty. And that led me to remember that way back over a year ago, we lent the rec department some funds to help buy the dasher boards. And at that time, after we took our vote, we were told that, it was just going to be set up as a payable, and don't worry about it. We were guaranteed, don't worry about it, because all these fundraisers are going to happen to pay it back. And now, over a year later, so far, there really hasn't been any fundraisers. We haven't received any money back. And when I went to look into it, I found that the ice rink expenses were being put in an account, but not part of the rec department's account. So it's very difficult for anybody to see them or to remember that it's out there. With everything that's flowing by, it's very easy to forget what you did a year ago. So very basically, I wanted to bring this back up. I was a little concerned that our motion and was approved was to provide up to $38,000 for dasher boards. If I read the account correctly, we actually only transferred $30,000. However, this fund owes us $42,000 for various other expenses that have been put into this account. And all I think it's time, what we need to see is we need to see these expenses, this debt, number one, on the books of the rec, so we know it's there. We need to see a repayment schedule, and a 3-year, 4-year repayment schedule by rec. And any further expenses be expensed through rec. This is their asset. As far as I know, this skating rink is their asset, and it should be handled that way, as their asset, and with their expenses and their debt. I don't know how many times I've heard, pretty much every time I asked about this, I was always told there is a fundraiser, and none of the fundraisers ever came to fruition. I understand that there may be another fundraiser next year sometime planned, but by putting this on their books, it wouldn't stop any fundraiser. We don't want to stop any fundraiser. We'd be more than happy to take any money for this, and we can do that. However, it would appear that the way the expenses are going, that we're using general fund money to fund the skating rink, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be done out of rec, who owns the asset. So that's why I brought it up. I wanted to see what my fellow board members thought of it. I'm not sure that it would take an action item necessarily to make those changes, but I think that would be the proper way for it to go, rather than having to hunt it down. It should be there. Again, it's the rec's asset. Why not the rec? It's the rec's expense, for that matter. I mean, other people aren't spending money. Rec is spending money, but they're not using their money. So, and it's because, I don't say that to accuse anybody of anything. That's just the way it happened to be set up and the way it's been running. I'm just saying we shouldn't be doing that. Let's stop it. Let's set the debt into rec, set up a repayment schedule. As I say, I think 3 or 4 years would be plenty to pay that back. They put something in reserve there that they're going to owe, so let's say $10,000 a year. They owe $10,000. If they don't get their fundraiser, the guys don't come through for them, then they're going to have to take it out of their budget to make that payment. But hopefully they would get the fundraiser. That was the impetus of this being put on here. And I'd be interested to hear what the rest of the board feel on this.
Well, I would agree. I guess 2 questions is, because we talk about fundraisers, who are these groups that are fundraising for this? Is there a specific entity or an organization?
It's an ad hoc committee.
Okay.
And it's made up with, I can say the names, no problem. Carl Moore, Devin Walt-Ketcher, Bob Peters from Hockey Association, Rick Morabito from a Hockey Association, Chief Porcerelli, who I recruited, and myself. We were unable to have a fundraiser this summer. We had one tentative plan, and unfortunately it didn't come to fruition. We already have one set for June 23rd of next year, golf outing, and that has been reserved at West Shore. So that date is solid. And some of the committee members are actually talking about doing another, like a poker night in February or something of that nature. So those things are in process. And we did get a very late start this summer. We can certainly come up with a schedule. I know it was the goal of this group to ultimately have a maintenance fund and keep fundraising, not just pay off the debt and walk away. They wanted to create a maintenance fund, and that's why we kept track of everything in this fund. How accounting-wise we show it, I know Ann had a few discussions when this whole thing started, and I said, let's keep everything through this account so we can work with the auditor and find out the best way to set this up or how we would show it on the books. We have no objection to doing that, whatever the board feels comfortable with or the best way to proceed with that. So, but we certainly, have this commitment, and I think I'll try to remember as specifically as I can. When I stood at the podium when the money was allocated from the township board to make up for that difference, Trustee Bundy, I think it was you that said, well, what if you guys don't do this? I said, well, we're making that commitment. You can always order us to, and you don't have to, but that commitment is there. We have a very motivated
and what I'm asking to be done won't interfere with that commitment. I hope that commitment is there. I hope that you do get the fundraiser. I hope REC wouldn't have to take a dime of their money. However,
don't want to have
based on what we've seen so far, I don't have a good feeling that that this money is going to be coming in anytime soon, and it is general fund money. It's it's not REC's money. If it was REC, it should be REC's because it's their asset. That's all. It needs to be reflected on there. And as they're going, I mean, we had the meeting was like August of 2014 to give money for dasher boards, and a number of other expenses were put into this, not run through REC, but run through this account and paid for by general funds, and now are owing to general fund. And I just don't think that's proper. It should just be shown, just like everything else in REC. It should be shown on there, and their expenses should be their expenses. They can get as much money as they want from fundraising, and good. I hope they do. But I don't like it being, I don't want to say off the books, but very difficult to find it.
Mr. Darzniak. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just so the understanding of the accounting is stated correctly, the intent of this was not to burden the rec department from day one. I mean, they wanted to raise money. It was going to be their ring. They were going to operate it. The intent was they actually put it in an escrow fund. We do this many times for many organizations. It's a holding account. In this respect, so it's a holding account. We do it for the Horton Fund. We've done it for a variety of different things that we've actually, it's a holding account. It's not ours. Just as we did with the bike path, I know he's raising his hand, there was no intent that the bike path, that this fountain would have any burden on the township. We keep it in an escrow fund. It's purposely done for that purpose so that we can follow those expenditures, so we know where those expenditures are. They're not incorporated all over. So the intent of this was to not burden the rec department. The intent was for them to have a maintenance fund to continue with maintenance, so we were actually keeping it out of there. Yes, at the end of the day, the intent was, we're going to take care of your asset. Yes, thank you for doing this for us. It's your asset. We get that. But the original intent, which started in 2009, was that we were just the holding unit. And at the end of the day, they were going to fundraise and maintain.
And this, putting it under REC, I mean, it's REC asset. It's not anybody else's asset. It's not, and I don't know who they are exactly. I guess it's any resident out there that wants to contribute, which is fine, and this wouldn't change anything. But we're running expenses here, and we're taking money out of non-REC money to pay for a REC asset. And I'm just saying, it should be in there. The REC should pay for it. and go out and get as much money as you can from fundraisers. That's wonderful.
Right, but at the end of the day, if there is a balance, we need to know what it is. They may want their money for something else. I mean, we don't have it in that.
Who's they? Ann?
Whoever this the Walt Ketcher, the Horton Fund that started this thing, they deposited that first money. They did the fundraiser. Grosedale Township didn't do any of it.
And that's wonderful, that's fine. But it's all the expenses that are going through it. I mean, we could see a Zamboni or something all of a sudden in there, and we have no legal. I don't believe we have any legal recourse against anybody that stands out there and says, "Hey, we're going to do a fundraiser for you," and they don't do it, and we're stuck with the bill.
Question, and especially with our auditor here, an escrow fund like this, where we are holding other people's money for the benefit of the township. Can we add it to our general ledger? Can we add it to our budget?
It's just an interfund. Yes, that's not an issue at all.
But it's not something we control. It's external. We're just holding it. I just don't know if it's proper for us to have that within our budget, or it's X budget, and we just provide documentation if somebody wants to see it.
And that money that they would say hold for us in the fund is fine. It's the fact that we're running all those expenses through there as if that's their asset. Those expenses are Rex expenses and should be run that way. We can hold the money until if you want to hold it for them, that's fine until they say get to Rec, because that's who they're going to give it to pay for those expenses. But to run all the expenses and have it in this fund, which was, since it's not part of Rec, nobody sees it. And that's my whole point, is nobody's seeing this account and would know. I mean, I know I was amazed when I, got it from you and saw that the amount owed, because it isn't a positive figure, it's a negative figure of $42,000. And I go, how did it climb to $42,000? We don't have any. As we discussed, there's no legal obligation for them to pay for anybody out there to pay us a penny. This is our expense, and it should be shown as Rec's expense.
Or debt.
Or debt. Yeah. It was expense, now it's a debt.
Okay, Wally's had his hand up over there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All of the blood is
I suppose, yes.
from my hand.
Getting fingers tips.
Now, one of the things that I'm going to say about that is that I've heard the murmurings in the background for the last year about this rink. We're here it with regularity. I did work with my community bike path committee. You heard about it every month, twice a month. I want to volunteer to be that guy to help this committee out. Dale, you got room for one more on this ad hoc committee? I'd be glad to join you. Let's have a meeting. I'll get it off dead center. Watch. I may be one brick shy of a low, but it's a hell of a work.
All right.
Bring it on. I'd like to be a part of it.
Okay.
Mr. Treasurer.
Number one, Ann, if you want to designate, in my opinion, if you want to designate, we feel it's necessary to designate the amount as Rec's responsibility. Ultimately, it's the township's responsibility. Don't stop this.
Oh, no.
Because this is great accounting. I mean, we know where every penny is at all times, regardless of how it got there, who it got there from. This is important that we keep this flowing in the manner that it's flowing. And I, for one, as a township trustee, knows that ultimately the Rec's responsible, and I also know realistically that ultimately the Rec can't pay it. General fund probably will. So we can call it anything you want to call it, but I think moving forward, if that would make Mr. Budney or Trustee Smith happy, then by all means, call it a Rec debt. Because I know this group, and I'm kind of astounded at the money they've already raised for this project. And I know the people involved in this fundraising, and I would think that I'd feel pretty confident that our $42,000 is safe, but if you want it as, if the members of this board want it there, but don't stop this account, because this is the kind of detail we need if we're going to start intermingling, and it kind of is intermingling donation money to township money. I'm not sure where that goes legally, but with this kind of counting, we can justify it all, and I would like to see it stay there. And if you want to call it rec, call it rec. I don't care. That really is immaterial to me, one way or the other.
Well, and the reason I say I'd like to see it on there is because once this board leaves and the new board is seated, they're not going to know that this existed. They're not going to know to ask for it.
Doesn't go away.
No. It's not that it won't be there. They just won't know to ask for it or to find out what's going on. That is the problem. It's just too difficult to find. And since Ted gave me his blessing, let's sort of.
Let's go forward.
Sort of. Let's I just think it'd be better that people can see what's going on.
Right, what we're basically talking about now is adding a line to the rec budget.
Right, and future expenses, not growing that budget.
That's a separate issue whether we're going to allow it to grow, shrink, give it a timeline.
Right.
But all we can do in the budget is add a line.
Right. I mean,
I don't think.
And those are all other questions, and it was just. The whole purpose of this was to bring in a line item in.
Now, if you want to put a finite, you want to put a chop date on or something, that's going to be a board action. You have 3 years, 5 years, whatever, to bring your balance to zero. There's sort of a follow-on or what, but I don't think it's unreasonable for us to establish a drop dead date. Bad use of words, but a chop date where we expect these lines balance. So. Any problem with adding a line to Rec's budget?
No, and
any
I was just thinking we're going to be doing the mid-year review so we can see where we're at. And at the end of the day, Jim, you're going to probably, we're going to have to figure out where this fire thing ends up and where we're at. A lot of
Is there any
changes
objection among the board to adding a line to the budget to account for this?
Well, I think we can discuss that at time of budget.
The mid-year review.
I'm not sure.
Mid-year review is coming up now, so.
I'm not sure we can obligate an entity. We know there's a fundraiser. We have established an account, and I'm not sure we can obligate an entity other than the township itself. And we can do that through rec. You can put it any place you want to put it. So if that's where you want to see it as rec, I don't know that I'm ready to commit that it's okay to put it to rec until we've had some discussion on it.
I'm not going to do it by fiat, so that's why I was.
Well, I don't think we're looking for an action.
No.
But it'll be a topic of discussion at mid-year review. And Mr. Ream.
It was pointed out to me, I gave you the inappropriate date of June 23rd. It's June 25th.
I've got a question.
So,
So we have a marina and a hockey, and we also have a golf course. So how come we're not having the golf outing? And I know some of the answer is going to be, well, it's not 18 holes, but I bet 9 + 9 equals 18. And I've played outings before at our place, and it's not bad.
The past September outing we had planned was going to be at Water's Edge, but it didn't come to fruition. So there will be those types of, we were planning golf and foot golf mix combinations. So there will be those types of events.
Good point, though.
Just saying.
Just saying.
Yes, yeah.
All right, any more just sayings on? When do we start?
November 3rd at 6 p.m.
Next meeting.
November 3rd at 6 p.m. I will be there.
Don't forget to vote.
Good point.
Already voted.
Mr. Clerk Rankin.
Yeah, and just one more question. There's already been a tremendous amount of money raised for the project so far. Can you just give us that total? Because I want to make sure that this group gets credit
Without
for all the
looking
money
at that,
so far.
I'm thinking it's around $40,000 that they raised in the last golf outing.
Yeah, their last
Past
their golf
experience.
outing, which gave them the money which they donated towards the Dasher boards. They had a very successful golf outing.
That was my right.
Yeah, so my only point is the group has got a very good history of performance.
Well, yeah, except since we gave them the money, nothing's happened. They had a nice track record. They do a good job, but nothing happened over a year. nothing has happened. So
We'll stay on them. All right, final comments on this discussion item. All right, we're going to move on to, with that terminating, let's move on to public comment. Okay, you know the rules. Introduce yourself, 3 minutes, and I'll let Woody go first. Mr. Clark.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. Dump the junk. Great turnout. We got 14 barrels this time because Waste Management didn't want us. No, you guys weren't going to burn it. So we had to take it out. Okay, Ingle Hazarad, Ed Stargett, Pat Wilson, Chuck Wallowich, Cliff St. Pierre, Ann and Marie and Ted, and John Klein. I want to give them special thanks. They did a wonderful job. Now that's to the. Okay, has Smokey signed on yet? Pardon?
We're still in negotiations.
Okay, so you have signed. Okay, how are we doing on the apartments? That's a mess over here.
It's still in the courts.
Still in the courts.
Still in the courts. We can't. Okay, Woody, you know this is not supposed to be question and answer. It's supposed to
Okay.
be public comments. Now,
So I just added
you
up.
used to send me your questions ahead of time, so I had all the answers you wanted. But go ahead.
Okay, we'll get some more then. Okay, why wasn't in line?
Answer 'em.
Okay, don't answer them. I don't care. I'm still going to ask them. Why wasn't there any inline skating?
What?
Why wasn't there any inline skating at the skating rink? There was nothing. Nobody was there.
Okay.
What is a dasher board? You keep on mentioning dasher board. What's a dasher board?
You know when hockey players get slammed into the board?
Yes.
We'll call it a slammer board, and you'll know what it is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we spent $900 on plants, watering plants. Why?
Which, okay.
On Macomb Street.
The DDA, we put the plants in the flower baskets,
And then
we
something
water
happened
them.
to them, and we had a guy watering them.
Yeah.
And it cost $900 for what, a season, a month?
For the summer.
A week?
For the summer.
Okay, what else? Okay.
Those are softballs. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mrs. Walker.
That can do better. Kathy Walker Thorpe Court. I was kind of disappointed tonight. I was hoping to hear from our township attorney. First of all, at the September 28th board meeting, there was a discussion that the attorney would be negotiating to recover money from the cancellation fee. And I have not heard, it's been 28 days, 4 weeks, and I was wondering, have we had any progress? Has anything moved forward?
A confidential communication I'll disclose with my client. I'm not going to do that in open session.
Okay, fine, but eventually it does get to be the public domain, right?
When there's action required by the board, it'll come to the board.
Okay, so whatever. Lastly, whatever happens then, if there is a loss, will it be charged to rec? That would be my question, because I don't think it's a bad debt. No response.
The board will decide.
Well, actually, it's an accounting thing more than the board. You know.
The board will decide regardless.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Other questions, comments from the public present? You didn't miss anyone? All right. With none offered, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Trustee Posey, yes.
Support.
Trustee Budney. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none offered. I'll call the meeting closed at 9:15. Thanks, everyone, for